let you guys make some closing comments.
Okay.
Okay, as you both probably know, I'm a big opponent to Obamacare because I believe that when government controls your health care, they control your life to the point that they can allow you to die. And so I've been fighting it very actively here at the state level against the private option. And talking about budget issues and that sort of thing, one of the biggest balloons are fixing to happen in 2017 when Obamacare is fully implemented. And I hear the Republicans talking a lot about repeal and replace. My question is, what are you going to replace it with? Because from where I stand, the government needs to get out of our health care and put it back to the state level. So we have
Well, I think, of course, I campaigned on repealing Obamacare during my campaign for Congress when asked about the private option in the state. I said I was opposed to it because I didn't think the state could afford it. And I think states should be able to decide and to design how they want to operate the Medicaid program within their own budget and their own state demographics and not have it be, kind of compelled onto them by a one-size-fits-all approach. So I was on a task force with Dr. Phil Rowe from East Tennessee this spring. We drafted and introduced a repeal and replacement bill for Obamacare in the House. A group of us that includes about half the group are business people, half the group are doctors. And it's not the only idea, but the main things I want to see replaced is the whole mandate aspect of it, on the individual and on the company, because it's driving up prices, and it's really not the Affordable Care Act. I mean, it's raised prices for everybody, from my family right on to almost everybody I know. If it had been called the Health Access Act, at least it would have been more candid in what its mission was. So repealing the mandates and letting people buy the insurance they want to or not is, I think, the right approach. And in order to spread that out, I think a tax credit system which sort of equalizes an individual's right to buy health care with pre-tax dollars like you did if you worked for a corporation is a reasonable approach on the ability of the affordability aspect of it. So that's the approach that I would take and support. As it relates to pre-existing conditions, which was one of the president's biggest things he talked about, what he failed to tell the American people is we had 50 state pre-existing condition pools. And if we really thought about it, like if you had a business group doing it instead of Nancy Pelosi and that group, you would have said, what state's the weakest? What state's the best? And remember, that was paid for by some federal dollars, insurance company dollars, and state taxpayers in all those states. They kind of designed their own pre-existing condition pool. And we would have been trillions ahead if we just said, what's the gap? Who is it in this state we're missing? And instead, we did it just the opposite way that you would do it, which was we federalized pre-existing condition pools. So if I had my druthers, we would go back to sort of a state approach, get it more local, get it more designed with the people in mind, with the local geography. And you could do that. You could unwind it just as easily as you wound it. And, we will have wasted billions, right? But you can get it back closer to the people, more locally determined, and I think that's the approach that, I would take. We are, and I'll let Bruce talk about this piece of it, before we went to our districts this week, the House of Representatives and the Senate have marked up the repeal of the mandates, the Cadillac tax, and the taxes, and we're going to use budget reconciliation, which only requires 51 votes to move a budget reconciliation bill to the White House that shows the core dismantling of those mandates. And it might be, again, Bruce has worked on that as a member of the Budget Committee, and you can add to that, fill in blanks and enhance maybe whatever I said wrong.
Yeah, when you look at the mandatory spending there are basically 5 things that are driving up mandatory spending. It's Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all the social welfare programs from food stamps to free cell phones and housing allowance and heating allowance and child care allowance and allowance. And then interest on the debt. And interest on the debt is creeping up on us in a big sort of way. It's $288 billion right now. The Congressional Budget Office says it'll be over $800 billion by 2025, which will be the largest expenditure of the federal government. And it's programs like Medicaid that are driving these costs up. When I was in the state legislature, I fought as hard as I could to stop implementation of the private option. The reason behind that, we're seeing right now why I fought against it. I said it's going to make Arkansas a Medicaid magnet. I didn't know that people in California were going to be signing up for it in Arkansas. We also see 40% of those on the private option have 0 income. So we're creating programs that incentivize people not to work. And what we need in this country are people to get back to work. The only way I see we get out of 18 to 19 trillion dollars in debt is we get our spending under control and we incentivize people to work. There are jobs out there, there are companies that are wanting to grow, but you tag on the regulations, you tag on the competition with the government for employees, and it's hard for companies to survive and to grow in this environment. But we've got to get people back to work, and part of that is removing these incentives and making them truly programs that help people that are down and out and need a hand up to get back on their feet, not make them any kind of a permanent assistance program. I could talk a lot longer on that, but I think we're about out of time.
I'm going to have one more comment about the speaker's race. The goal of the Freedom Caucus, the Republican Studies Committee, Joe Blow, Republican from wherever, is to do one thing, and that's to get 218 votes on the floor of the House of Representatives for our next speaker that will serve until January 2017. It's not a permanent marriage here. We're going to elect a speaker in an interim period to serve until the beginning of the new Congress in January of 2017. And that is absolutely the goal, to get the most conservative, committed, articulate communicator. Remember what I said, process, conservative mission brought to the floor of the House, and then be able to communicate that, not every once in a while on the Sunday TV shows, but every single day, in a press conference, on the web, on nightly TV. And so our goal, the Freedom Caucus's goal, and every member of the Republican Conference is to get a speaker for 218 when we elect. Thank you.
If I were running for speaker, this is what I would tell the conference. I would say, I will sit in the chair until every appropriation bill is passed. There's nothing more important for the House of Representatives to do than pass an appropriation bill. And I think that would be a huge message to the American people that there's a speaker dedicated to passing appropriation bills, and nothing more is important for that speaker to do. Whoever the winner is, I'm going to encourage them to do that. They probably won't listen to me, but I'll still encourage them to do that.
Run, Bruce!